Just want to make sure there's no issues before we get. Ed says all good. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, like I just said, welcome to the daily live training, how to get started in Apollo and start booking meetings like the top 1%. I'm going to walk you through what the top 1% are doing to book the most meetings. It's not going to be my opinion. It's not going to be the company's opinion. I'm actually going to show you a chart breaking down all the Apollo users and their success with booking meetings. And then we're going to go copy what the group that's booking the most meetings are doing to accomplish that. I'm not going to do it on slides or just tell you about it. I'm actually going to go into Apollo and build it live so that if you'd like, you can do it with me and use this chat to ask any questions, things that confuse you, intimidate you, something that might have stopped you or blocked you if you're going to do this later on your own. Before we get started, as folks are still popping in, quick icebreaker. Where are you logging in from today? Where are you calling in from? I'm in Chicago, Illinois, so I'm going to pop that in the chat. Pop it in there, and I'll probably just scroll through and mention some of them just because above a certain amount of folks in the audience, and I don't know what that number is exactly, but at some point people don't want to hear any of it. I think it's around 50 potentially. That's not scientific. But again, welcome to the daily live training. And when I said we're going to cover what the top 1% are doing, that we're going to get you set up with the best setup, that's not for everything in Apollo, right? Apollo can do a lot. It's the world's only end-to-end sales engine. I think they call it go-to-market in a box. We're going to be focusing on booking meetings. And that's usually what folks new to Apollo are most concerned about. Maybe not minute one, but like end of day one, week one, month one. Even if it's year one, you should still probably like this because a lot of folks tell me this is kind of like cutting to the front of the line. I know that firsthand. I've been an Apollo user and customer for almost 6 years, and it took me about a year to just start dipping my toes into the water of what I'm going to show you today. So again, for the folks that popped in a little bit late, welcome to how to get started in Apollo and start booking meetings like the top 1%. I should probably change it, not like the top 1%. You'll be in the top 1% because I'm going to walk you through exactly how they're doing it. I'm going to do it myself so you can copy. And you will get a recording. Nobody's asked it yet. But the folks that do it live, play along at home or the office, they see a 5x boost over, I want to say it's a month, but I think the report actually says 28 days. We started doing this about 7 weeks ago as a test. We've got enough data now to see the impact. It's around 5x boost to meetings versus folks that don't do the webinar. People that do it with me see a bigger boost. And I think that's because they can use this chat area to ask questions. So I'm James O'Sullivan. I'm part of the Apollo Academy team. As you can see, I've got my uniform on. I've been in sales for around 17 years, have sold for everything from Fortune 500 companies like Uber. They brought me into fixed sales at one of their stealth startups, mid-market companies like Career Builder, where I was a seller for a number of years and then managed mid-market and enterprise teams, and then startups as well. Seed with just a handful of folks, Series A to Series B. Haven't sold everything, but I've tried to sell a lot. I'm also, like I just said, have been an Apollo customer for around 6 years. So I'm well-versed on the platform, how to have success with it. I'm also well-experienced in terms of understanding what it's like being a new user on here. I was frankly intimidated at first glance by some of the stuff I'm going to show you today. So hopefully I can de-stress that for you as we go through it. So, let me go real quick and just check, see where folks are from. Got a lot of folks. Okay, Dallas, Virginia Beach, Long Island. It's hot in Dubai, Turkey, Liverpool in the UK. We got somebody, two people in Chicago. Wonderful. London, Traverse City. Why was I was just talking about Patrick. I was talking about Traverse City yesterday, and I can't remember why. Is there a casino there? Toronto, San Jose, Bangalore, India, Napa, Spain, Pensacola, Florida, India, Armenia, Colombia, New York, Bulgaria, New Jersey, Switzerland, Paris, Alberta, Canada, an American in Belgium. Sounds like a book maybe. India, Florida, Utah, California, Colorado, Miragoa, West London, England, Cali, Philly, Argentina, India, Germany. Patrick has confirmed there's casinos and wine and Traverse City. That's probably what I was talking about. Birmingham, Baton Rouge, Wisconsin, India, Pensacola, Islamabad, Pakistan, and San Fran. And Emily, I love Wisconsin. If you've never been to Wisconsin, it's the only place in the world you can see multiple cheese castles off the highway as you're driving through. And I think that's a good thing. So let's get moving here. What's the best, fastest way to book meetings? What is that top 1% doing that's so different that's allowing them to see much more meetings on the effort they're putting into their outbound activity? Now, instead of what the majority of people are doing is they're taking 1,000 leads and they're going to send them all like one email. Cold email is the most dominant form of outbound, and people aren't really all that good on average of following up. The top 1%, however, as opposed to taking 1,000 leads and sending them all one email or maybe two, they're narrowing it down. They're being a little bit more targeted, 800 or 600 or 400 leads, depending on what their industry is. And instead of just reaching out once or maybe twice, they're following up multiple times, 4 or 5 times on average, and they're diversifying it. They're mixing in other stuff besides just emails. Now, to show you the impact of that, here's a chart of, we had a couple other folks pop in, Islamabad, India, and Italy. Wonderful. So we got most of the planet covered here. I still haven't had anybody from Antarctica or the North Pole. I was hoping to have somebody from Santa's team, but that's okay. And I hope everybody's having a wonderful week so far. Happy Wednesday. We're all going to sit on the sales floor together today, and we're going to copy what this group in Sign is doing. So a good way to look at this chart is to think about it like you're the boss. You've hired 3 sellers. You got 300 accounts, leads. Companies you want them to go after. They're all the same quality. You mix them up, cut the deck, and you give all 3 new hires 100 of them. And they end up working those leads differently with the tools you've given them, which is logins to Apollo. So one of them, the one at the bottom here, just goes into Apollo, gets all the lead data, and works it manually or onesie, twosie. Or I remember there's a guy I sat next to who had a calendar invite that got moved every day with like 50 to-dos in it, right? And that's how he kept track. Or like me, the first time I got access to Apollo, I still have the file with 1,157 contacts, 20 columns wide, so I could have all their contact information and columns to mark down if I added them on LinkedIn, when I emailed them, when I followed up, all sorts of stuff, right? That group is seeing the least success with their meeting book rates, and they're also putting in more time. You can still have success that way, but that's the group on average that's seeing the least amount of success. The people that do the same thing with the leads, but then use sequences. And if you don't know what a sequence is, that's okay. I'm about to show you. But you can think of it as like a game plan or your playbook for a certain bucket of leads. Those folks, and they're just using sequences in kind of the lowest tier way, just automated emails where Apollo's sending an email for you. They're seeing a 3x boost on average with their meeting booked rates. But the folks seeing the most success, and this includes that top 1%, it's in cyan there, I think, or blue, light blue, baby blue. Robin's egg blue. I'm not sure what color that is, but that 70% one, they're seeing the most success, and that group is putting their leads into sequences, and then they're setting up those sequences so that they follow up 4 or 5 times or more, and they're diversifying it. They're mixing in maybe some manual emails. They personalized it, automated emails from Apollo, phone calls, LinkedIn. I still do handwritten notes or video messages, right? They're seeing at least a 4x boost, and some of these folks are seeing well greater than that. So if you don't know what a sequence is, and this is actually the reason my first time that first year, I told you it took me about a year to tap into what we're going to cover today. You're going to cut to the front of the line because only 40% of folks end up using sequences, and by and large are seeing more success. When I first saw this, I was scared off. I was worried I was going to end up getting fired because I'd screw something up with, I saw there was stuff that was automated. There was a lot of steps. I just got nervous I was going to screw something up because I didn't know what I was doing, and I'd end up getting fired or violating CAN-SPAM or something. But it's really simple, and we're going to walk through the most popular steps today so you know how to do them, you know the context, you can ask questions. But you'll see these are all the steps you can add to a sequence, and you just stack up what you want to do with any bundle of leads, like their Fisher-Price blocks or Legos, or I've never played Minecraft, but maybe it's like Minecraft as well. You just say, with this bucket of leads, I want to send them a manual email. It's mostly 90% done. I just want to personalize a little bit when it's time to go out. And if they don't get back to me, then I want to add them on LinkedIn, and I want Apollo to send an email for me. And if they don't get back to me then I'm going to call them, or I'm going to send a carrier pigeon with a note, whatever it might be. You put it in there, and it allows you to align the effort you want to put into a certain bucket of leads versus working them all the same. So my goal is just to have you on the right side of this line, because that's where modern sellers are seeing more success. Now some folks sometimes say, well, I don't have time to do all those steps with all my leads. But when you're on the right side of this line, maybe some of them get all the steps, others get less. And then there's other buckets that is much more automated. You're spending your time on your best leads, and Apollo is helping you on the ones that are middle or lower potentially. And over time, you start to really get a sense of what leads and how you're finding them are best for your business. On the left side of the line, and I hesitate to call it the old way because to me it was never really selling, but people were able to see this success for a while with this high volume spray and pray. Just, you didn't need to be good at sales. You just had to find a way to get a bunch of emails out there. But that, to me, was an arbitrage opportunity, and it's pretty much gone away. It was a snake eating its tail because you could send like 10,000 emails and then you get X amount of sales. Then next quarter you go, you know what, I want to be an even better seller this quarter. I'm going to send 20,000 emails. But now when you send 10,000 emails, you barely get into any inboxes. Your ratios are going to be bad. You'll be disappointed. You'll have to send 20,000 emails just to make up for it. But then you hurt your domain's reputation even more. And now you're in even less inboxes. So on this right side, not only will you have more success, it also allows sales to be a little bit more fun sometimes when you're not overly reliant on one method of generating revenue. So, and I see, Jacob, you got a question there. That's where to pop your questions. I noticed somebody else posted a question in the Q&A. That's actually, Car, that's actually where you should put the questions according to the platform. I just ask that you put them in chat so that I can answer more of them as I'm going through the steps. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to hop in. I'm going to copy what the top 1% are doing and build it myself so that ideally you can do it with me. So if you got two screens, put me on one, yourself on the other. If you need to do it on one screen, there'll be plenty of time to tab back and forth. Like I said, I've been doing this like twice a day for 7 weeks. It's like Broadway here. So is it perfect? No, but I think the timing will be good so you can get everything done within the next 45, 50 minutes. So I'm going to log in. You log into yours. And if you're on the fence, maybe give me the benefit out, log in. You can always change your mind and hop out later. And if anybody's saying, you know what, that sounds good, I'd love to be able to do it with you, but I can't do it now, let me know in the chat and I'll post a link where we have a listing of all the other ones happening this week. So there we go. I'm logged in. Everybody else getting into theirs. And feel free to, I'll try to ping you. Initially, I didn't even know there was emojis in here and people started using them. So feel free to use those. You know, thumbs up, you're good to go. Thumbs down, you're still typing a question. Every once in a while, I see one that's crying. I can't tell if it's laughing or just sad, but I think it works either way. So I'm logged in. I'm going to go to search because that's what we're going to do first. We're going to search for our leads like the top 1%. So if you're in, on the navigation toolbar on the side there, click search. And whoever's sending the thumbs up, thank you. It's like Altered Beast. I start to power up. I might start hulking through my sweatshirt if you guys do too many of those, but feels good. So here we are in search. For this example, I'm a SaaS seller. I sell SaaS. I sell software that helps salespeople be better at their job, like a sales enablement or sales training platform. And that's at least the version of it that Dr. Seuss wrote. So I'm going to be a little bit indulgent. I'm going to search for my Glengarry Glen Ross leads. I want my best possible leads as defined by me. So the first thing we're going to look at is job titles. Everybody good? So when we get in here, you'll notice that job titles as a filter is pretty big. There's a lot of different ways to use it. I'm just going to put in the roles that I'm looking to speak with. You can start typing. You can use the drop down. You'll notice that as you start to type, it'll start auto-populating answers people have put in here. So like I said, I'm going to make this my VIP search. I'm going to look for CEO, president, and founder. So pop it. We're looking in people right now, John. Yeah. Now, if somebody's saying, I want to search for leads in a list of targeted accounts, or I want to exclude a list of companies that are active clients, let me know, and I'll post a link on how to do that. That's all doable. So you'll notice there's different ways to use this. I usually just put the titles in, but sometimes there's other ways that are better. And if you have a lot of people you sell to, then potentially you just choose one bundle or one type of persona. You know, you can do it however you want because we're going to save it and you can edit it later. But you'll notice in job titles, you can also use this in other ways, like we don't want to see any of these roles, or we do want to include past job titles. If you want to be really specific, you can do Boolean and put things in quotes with and or. There's also management level here where you can just say, hey, show me folks in the C-suite or owners or founders. I've never had anybody say they wanted to search for entry level or intern, but those are in here as well. Now you might be saying that's going to be way too wide of a search. It will be right now, but we're going to add other filters and over time it'll hone in on what you're looking for. You also have departments and job function here. So for example, at Career Builder, oftentimes on the enterprise side, I would want to be, if we had no relationship, sometimes you just want to talk to anybody in HR, even if it wasn't a buyer. Maybe I would do a lot of survey and blueprinting calls. I could just check that box, or you can hit the plus sign and hone in on exactly what you're looking for, like, investor relations, if you sell to IR. So let's put in the type of folks we're looking to meet or sell to in this job titles. Let me go back and make sure mine are there. Perfect. Let's go pop that in there for job titles. And then we're going to go to the second one. The second one's going to be location. Again, pop your questions in the chat. I'll check it after a couple of filters, okay? And folks sometimes get confused on this one as soon as you open it up because there's two tabs. One of them is for the contact, where the contact's at. And this actually matters more now with so many people working remote because it's not, a lot of folks aren't near where their company's headquartered. So contact is where the contact's at. Account headquarters, where any of the leads showing up in your search, where their employer is based out of. So if you can only sell within a territory, for example, you can only sell wherever you're licensed or registered or something, California, you can go to account headquarters and pop that in here. Or if you are at a company where you work the West Coast, you can put in multiple cities, states, countries, zips here. So if I was working West Coast, I might say California, Nevada, or whatever it was I wanted here. Again, just like job titles, you could have multiple. You can start typing them or use the drop down. You can also exclude here. Now, I really don't care where the company is based out of, but I do care about where the contact is for my VIP search. I only want to see executives that are in the Chicago area because that will allow me to meet with them more easily, cheaper. I don't need to book it 2 weeks out and clump meetings around it, right? So that's all I'm going to put in here. I really don't care anything else. If you're a CEO and you're living in Chicago, your company's probably based there too, or Delaware, but if not, that's okay. There's also select a zip code with a radius. Sometimes sellers are set up with a radius of their territory where they could sell. You can pop a zip code in, and I think it gets as tight as 25 miles. Everybody good? Perfect. So we've got job titles, we've got location. Now let's go to number of employees. This will be company size by employee base. For me, like I said, VIP search, I'm going to aim directly for my sweet spot, where I do best with this fake company. That is big SMB, small mid-market. So I'm going to do 100 to 200, 200 to 500, and 500 to 1,000. A lot of times people tell me they really don't care, but usually most of the time you either don't want to see the smallest, like a 9-person family business doesn't make sense for what you're selling, or you're not really geared up to sell Lockheed Martin or Boeing or Walmart. So oftentimes folks are just saying, give me all these except for the biggest or smallest 3 or 4. If those predefined boxes don't work for you, you've got custom range right here. That might seem a little bit silly, but if at a lot of companies, sellers are set up to sell based on size of company. So like a Career Builder, our entire entry-level division of a couple hundred sellers could sell any company up to 250 employees. These boxes wouldn't work, so you could pop it in here. We got a couple. Is this for people or companies? So that was from John. You'll notice at the top of search, you can search for people or companies here. So the filters for companies are a little bit different, but sometimes that makes sense. You could also then search companies and save it as a list. So you can say, okay, these companies match these filter requirements. I'm going to save that as a list and now use that as a filter. So I'm going to add all these other filters looking for leads, but only within or excluding that list of companies. You can also upload, and let me get that now just because I'm sure with 100 folks, somebody's going to want that. So I'm going to pop something in the chat real quick. This is called the Apollo Knowledge Base. Excuse me. I would recommend bookmarking this. It's basically a Wikipedia of all things Apollo. So if you want to import a list of companies or contacts to enrich them, so I'm going to put this here, import a CSV of accounts. Here's the link to that, import CSV of accounts. And that could be really helpful if you, like for example, you work targeted accounts, you only want to see leads within those targeted accounts. Doesn't matter anything else. So anything, pretty much anything you could be wondering, trying to get help on, confused about, even individual filters. Oftentimes people ask about buying intent. You could just type it in here, go to buying intent. I think there's some folks that, you know, when they first see it during this training, that it looks absurd. How could Apollo know a company is interested in what I'm selling? And then even sort it out by high, medium, or low intent. You could pop it in here. It tells you where the data comes from. It's 2 different data providers, Bombora being the gold standard of intent data. And it'll even explain like what the differences are on high, medium, and low. So definitely bookmark that. Could you cover the technologist part if that's possible? Yeah, I think I could get, let me try to get to that, Eve. Does Apollo work good with realtors? I'm a new realtor and I'm thinking of using it. Mustafa, that hasn't come up in the live training before, and I've not been a realtor, but I've heard of a lot of other use cases that wouldn't be too dissimilar. So it is a, you know, I just met with a company that is was using Apollo both to sell, to find leads, but also to find talent because they were a growing recruitment agency, right? So I've heard a lot of different situations where people have dual uses for it. I think it could be good for realtors, but I'm not well versed in what a realtor is thinking about when they're finding leads. Andrew asks, is your account a premium account? Yeah, my demo account here is, it's actually a custom. So there's free, basic, pro, and custom. Many companies don't have clear decision makers' email ID in these situations. Vin, could you give me a little more context on that? Many companies don't have a clear decision maker's email ID. Are you talking about the email address being good or being able to find it, or figure out who the decision maker is in the organization? Let me know, I guess. So just to keep things moving, I want to make sure we have enough time to cover everything. And thank you for all the questions. A lot of questions to start things off. I'm going to have a flop sweat going here. I should have brought a towel. Let's go to our 4th filter. That'll be industry and keywords. You should see that right under number of employees. My filter should be the same order as any new accounts. I checked that to make sure that was the case. Now, if you sell to specific industries, verticals, this is where you could pop it in. But it's also really useful for creating searches where you're going to bundle together leads within a certain persona or certain industry. The idea being the top 1% will often have different searches, like search ABC, search XYZ, and they're aligning them with sequences of the same name. That way they can have one path that they're getting leads, then they're putting into their game plan, their playbook, just for those types of leads. And then anything automated can speak more specifically to what that person might care about because it's only leads from accounting in there, that sort of thing. So if you do sell to different industries, potentially on this one, you say, I want to limit myself to these types of buyers and this industry. And when we go to save it, you're going to give yourself clarity at a glance on what this one would be about. So I don't care about industries for my search. As long as they have a sales team, then I'd like to go after them if they meet my other filter requirements. There's also company keywords here. Some of our filters have outside data partners pushing information in here. Then we collate it with all the other filters. You can imagine this one is some company that's feeding in information about what companies are doing online, like technology they use for their website, or that they do cost per click ads, that sort of thing. So if either of those would be useful for you, let's pop those in there. I'm getting a lot of hearts. Thank you. It feels good. I feel very loved. Can you upload a blacklist to kick companies out of your search? Yep. So that import, I just posted it 2 above there. If anybody's wanting the same thing, that import CSV of accounts, that'll walk you through uploading a list of companies that you can then say, I only want to search within this list, or I want to exclude any leads that aren't in this. Yeah, and there will be a recording of this if somebody's mentioned that their internet wasn't working well. Let me get another link though as well. And bookmark this if you want. These are the webinar listings. This is where all the daily live webinars over the next week or 2 are listed. Like I said, I do these every day. We're going to go back to 2 a day next week. And the big webinars like the June 12th one on website visitor tracking, that's a new feature of Apollo. It just came out. We're going to be doing a big webinar on that. That'll also be on that page. So let's go to our fifth filter. And this one's not going to be, if you're on the free plan, for example, you won't have access to this. But for everybody that does have access to email status, let's open up that one. You'll notice that there's two green options. I guess the easiest way to put this would be just click the two green ones. But to give you some context, the green ones are verified, likely to engage. You don't want to have bouncing emails. That will affect your domain's reputation. So you send an email, it's a bad email address, it bounces back. It's going to make it harder to get in the inbox. And when people reply or likely to engage, for example, that actually helps you. So sometimes folks will just start with likely to engage if they're like a startup, they got a new domain, something, and then they'll include verified after that, right? Because if you're not bouncing and you're getting more replies, that'll be very good. So let's select both of those just so we've got clean data on this. It'll reduce the number of leads we're seeing, but we're going to be starting with the ones where we've got the best data. Now, if you don't have that one, still stick around though, because the thing that people like most about this training is in the sequences portion, where there's the third step where I show you how you're going to get free meetings. No work on your part, you'll get extra meetings. Everyone's going to be able to do that, whether you're on a free or paid plan. Now, as we add these filters, you'll notice at the top of the search results here, there's three tabs: total, net new, and saved. And it might look redundant if you're new, because total and net new will be the same. But what like I said before, you're going to save your search, and that will be where you're getting your leads, and you're going to align it with your game plan, your playbook, your sequence. When you come into Apollo to get new leads to put into that game plan, you're going to go to net new. That'll show you all the leads in Apollo that you haven't yet saved that meet those filter requirements. Save the ones that you have saved would, of course, be right here. So that way you can put in your calendar once a week or every day. The best of the best have something where they're structured. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to grab 25 new leads and put them into my sequence that matches that search. I'd recommend you, even if it's just 15 minutes, because you don't want to have that situation where you got to keep doubling back to find new leads and start working them again. If it's every week, you'll be building this selling engine that will be sustainable and can show that incremental growth. So there's a whole bunch of filters here. You could feel free to scroll through and take a peek at them, right? But the first four we used are the most popular base of the pyramid. So much so we've added a filter called persona, so you could pre-save different types of personas, different types of situations. You'll notice that personas are job title, industry and keywords, location, number of employees, the first four we started with. So if you have different buyers, different situations, you can actually save them here. And then whenever you want to do a new search, you've got those accessible. You just click it and then add the other filters on top. But there's actually more than the filters you're seeing right here. And I'm going to have to go look in there because I want to make sure any leads I'm seeing have salespeople there. Again, it doesn't matter how good a job I do selling it. If they don't have salespeople, they won't want software that helps salespeople do better. So you'll notice at the top of the filters here, where it says filters, there's going to be a number. That number will tell you how many filters you've already got applied. It might look high, but you'll notice when you scroll down, every answer you give on a filter counts as one. So email status, I've got 2. Job titles, I've got 3. But right next to it, there's a button that says more filters. So would you click that button real quick? And you'll see all the rest of Apollo's 65 filters pop out. So this is where all the ones that won't be in your main filter list live. There's some here for people, for companies, engagement data, CRM data, that sort of thing. So the one I was looking for, you'll see is right here, number of employees by department. But if you want SIC codes or headcount growth or total years of experience or job change, though I would recommend time in current role. I think it's better I do 0 to 12 months. I saw some data that indicated 9 months is the ideal time for director and VP level folks, that they're most likely to change from what the status quo was before they got there and spend more money. And that makes sense to me, right? You come into a new job, you want to learn what's going on, figure out the problems are, get your team's opinions. So I would recommend that one. But for any of these, if you like them, you want to use them, and you want them in your main filters, when you hover over it, you'll see that gray tack. Click that, and it'll move into your main filter list. And it works in reverse as well. If you see a filter here that you're not going to use, you're disgusted by it, you want it out of your main list, it pops into this more filters menu. So feel free to pin over any of these if you think they're going to be really useful. Or if you want to use number of employees by department with me, feel free to pin that one over. You could have multiple departments. I'm just going to put in sales. And I want there to be at least 79 people in their sales department. And I'll hit apply. And that narrowed me down significantly from something just south of 300 million to around 1,200. So that's going to work for me. The next step we're going to do is we're going to save this. So check out the other filters. See if there's anything else you want to add. I'm just going to check the chat real quick. I tried to search for my location, which was in United Arab Emirates, but some contacts show for United Kingdom. Naresh, did you use contacts or account or company on that one? Because you can see if you put where a company is headquartered, you'll see accounts from all over the world. Oftentimes it'll be biased towards where that company is headquartered, either the state or country, that sort of thing. But you can see folks all over if they're working for headquarters. Okay, so yeah, on location, when you put in account headquarter right here, you'll see leads of people that meet the other filter requirements that work for companies that are based in whatever geo you put there. So you might want to, if you only want to see folks that work for companies in the UAE and also live there, then put UAE for contact and UAE for account headquarters. Perfect. Good question. You are on a limited version of Apollo, which allows viewing up to 5 pages of prospects. Soria was asking about something, a message she got. I'm just going to show everybody this real quick because oftentimes it resolves other folks' questions. So when you go to Apollo IO, there's a pricing thing at the top. I'm not trying to hard sell you on this. I think, I don't like this sort of screen where it's so confusing. You don't know what you're getting. But if you scroll down, there's actually a lot of value on this page. And this is what I want to see whenever I'm buying anything. I just bought Six Flags season passes for me and my daughter. And I still went to this sort of screen, right? So you'll see that it breaks down free, basic, professional, and custom. And you see every feature in Apollo at a granular level of what you get access to. So on this one, how many prospects you could see at one point, you'll notice that, for example, on the free plan or basic, you can only save, email credits are saving a lead credits, 50 or 200 a month. Record selection limit is how many you could select to save in bulk. You can only do that 25 at a time. On the paid, you could do 100 or 10,000. So if you go to that pricing page, you can go through everything down to what filters you can use, what features you have, etc. Any ideas on how to target companies that need exhibition design, building service? Ahmed is asking about certain industries. I don't know that industry well, but Ahmed, let me show you real quick. If anybody's curious about the buying intent feature, I got to do this real quick. Ahmed, I apologize. I just want to make sure there's enough time for sequences. But oftentimes folks are curious about this. So this buying intent feature is where you can tell Apollo what intent signals to track, right? When you hit edit right here, there's a billion different options for what they're tracking for intent data. So with companies that want exhibition design build services, I don't know the best way to search for that in here, but you'll just notice there's a ton of different topics and products and services in here. My guess is that there's some version of that in here or multiple. Oftentimes there's variations that are very laser focused. You'll notice I've got all these different, sales gamification software, sales performance management software, AI sales assistant software. So there's probably going to be multiple that are really good for what you're looking, what you sell, or proxies for it. So let's save our search though, and we're going to hop over to sequences. So at the bottom of your filters, does that help, Ahmed? You'll see there's a big blue button that says Save Search. So let's click that, and this screen will be popping up. You'll notice that you can title this here, and oftentimes folks, one, you're just winning getting to this page. A lot of people just come in transactionally whenever they want more leads, they grab them and then they leave. There's no way to track what searches, what ideas work better. And sometimes folks just put gibberish here, or the first time I got access to Apollo, the people next to me did this, so I started doing it. They just put the date. But again, it really doesn't tell you anything other than, hey, here's the search you're doing before lunch. Now you could keep using it after lunch. The best of the best give themselves clarity at a glance and even some sense of prioritization. If it's your first saved search, that's going to be difficult, but you can at least give yourself clarity at a glance and tell yourself what's in this search. What are you looking for here? So VIP executive, Chicago area sales team, was it 79? I think so. You can manage visibility, meaning if there's other users on your Apollo account, if you want them to be able to see your search idea, use it, copy it, public. If you're like Gollum, this is your ring, it's a special idea, or you just don't want to get flack from somebody wondering why you're doing kind of what they might think is a weird search, you can go private. But if you're new, I would pin it to the sidebar, just bookmarks it, makes it easy to access. No reason not to until you got too many. And then search subscription alerts are your way of telling Apollo, for this search, if new people come in that meet my filter requirements, let me know about it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So if you've got a search like mine, 1,200 leads is still really narrowed down, but it's more than I can effectively work over the next couple months. I don't want to see on a daily basis more contacts I can't get to yet. So I might set it to monthly or off. But if you have anything that's wider, like where you're seeing more folks that you can work over the next month, maybe you come in later today and you load up your saved search and add more filters to it. So it's highly defined, 10 out of 10, A+, King of New York, your perfect defined leads, and set that one to daily. Some search, it's so defined, it's your perfect lead. There's not a lot of folks out there that meet that. Or if you're just selling something where there's not a lot of people out there that meet your filter requirements, like spaceships, set that to daily so you'll know within 24 hours when somebody new pops into the database. So we'll save that here. Now when you come back into Apollo, you hit search on the navigation bar. You'll notice that it defaults to search here, but you can hit save search and it'll default to pinned. So that's why I'm saying you can bookmark it and it'll be right here. Your private and public ones, including the ones that are public from other folks, will be right there. So some other questions here. When using the companies tab, can you have Apollo create accounts within HubSpot? I don't, Nathan, I'm not sure on that one, but I think we have something on here. Here we go. I was digging through a bunch of examples of how people set up Apollo and HubSpot for data mapping, and I was even going through the HubSpot forums. So this is configure HubSpot Apollo data mapping. My guess is this will give you what you need to determine what can go back and forth. How do I exclude companies that are already included in the cadence? So you can manually do it or upload a list of accounts or, use search companies. But you'll notice there's a list filter right here for people or companies. And you could use one of your lists as an exclude or include list. So include if you work targeted accounts, exclude if you want to not see any leads in companies you're already working or active clients, that sort of thing. And that could be created using search here, or you could upload it. If I upload a list of our current contacts, I don't know the exact breakdown of what gets shared in Apollo or what doesn't. I think if you upload something and you keep it private, and this is not going to be the legal definition of it, but I was just using this. I was uploading a list of my personal LinkedIn contacts, Catherine, and you'll see that there's a filter here, contact CSV import. So I was able to use that in Apollo, but not mix it with any Apollo data, and it was all 100% private. I think if you mix your stuff with Apollo data, I don't know what gets shared over there. I'm sure it's in like the TOS. But I think there's a way we can blend them and then maybe some stuff is shared, or you can say, I want to segregate it. I don't want any of this to go into Apollo's stuff. But I don't know the details on that. Is there a way to find out if we'll be using credits indefinitely for contacts or if we have a limited use? You should see that in your settings, Jason. If you go to your profile icon at the top, you can view credit usage right here. So, and sorry, I'm trying to rush. I try to answer as many questions as possible, but I also want to get to the other stuff. So I apologize. Not trying to be rude if I'm giving you fast answers. So let's get to sequences. We finished that save search. We've got it set up. Now we're going to create that matching sequence. And a lot of times, I'm starting to learn that a lot of times people do a search which is very wide in this training. I think you'll end up coming back and creating versions of that for different types of buyers or geographies or situations so that you'll create playbooks for them. And they might be very similar, but the messaging, the language, the stuff you talk about, your success stories might be different depending on the industry. Then you can be very specific. That's what, as I'm looking more into the data of the people booking the most meetings, they usually have multiple searches and sequences, even if they're very similar. So you won't have a bunch of sequences in here. If you're new, that's okay. We're going to all hit this plus new sequence button, add a new sequence at the top right. We'll have to go a couple minutes long, and I'll stay late as well to answer more questions, okay? But let me get through these first steps for anybody who needs to take off early. So you'll see this create a sequence screen. It should be the same as mine, except if you don't have any, you'll have 3 buttons. You won't have clone because you don't have a dolly. I normally give a little spiel about checking out pre-formatted later. I'll do it real quickly. Hop in there later because there's one everybody can use, which is meeting no-shows. It's a sequence pre-built. You could edit it if you want or use it as is. You're going to book meetings where they don't show up. It's a leaky bucket where a lot of folks don't follow up so great there. I think because it's manual or you just send it once, or sometimes you're just annoyed they didn't show up. You can set up that sequence for meeting no-shows. If somebody doesn't show up, you just pop them in there. You can have a system that's consistent and get them back on the calendar. Now a sequence name, again, we gave ourselves clarity at a glance with our search. Let's do the same here. You can pretty much name it the same thing unless you have the word search in that one, then maybe you take it out here, but otherwise I'm going to do exactly the same. And we'll hit create. So you should be at this screen right here. And you'll see there's an add a step button at the bottom. So let's click that because that's going to pull up that screen I showed you in the slides. Jason asked what sequence type. So from scratch, if you have 3 or 4 options, there should be a from scratch button. There's also the pre-built ones, the pre-formatted. There's also an AI can help you build one out. I do from scratch in here just because I want to give you the confidence to know that you can build these on your own. You know how to use the most popular steps because my guess is we're all going to have different ideas. Something's going to come to you while you're having lunch today or this weekend when you're golfing or something. I always hear from folks that they get these great ideas for sequences that wouldn't have occurred unless they knew how to use all these steps and how the whole process worked. So let's hit add a step. And I see there's more questions, but just for time, I'm going to hit those right after I get to the sequence stuff, okay? And it moves pretty quick. So for this first step, if you have access to it, we're going to do manual email. If you don't have that one, let's say you're on the free plan, then do automatic email. That third step I'm going to show you is going to get you free meetings, as in you're not going to have to do any work, but it requires that in the first step, we send an email. So again, manual email, if you have access to that. If you don't, automatic email. It's mostly going to be the same here. And the difference between manual and automatic, we're going to pop in an email with these special codes so that Apollo can personalize it for us. Automatic goes out at the right time, the time you state it should be going out. Manual, on that day it's supposed to go out, it's going to say, hey, James, here's this email that's 99% done for Billy. You can actually send it now, but I want to give you the opportunity to personalize it a little bit more. So something I like to do with my best leads is I don't want to just send them a templated email. So this screen pops up. I would recommend leaving when to start this step. Leads, you put them into the sequence. Oftentimes people want to say immediately. They're anxious to get meetings on the calendar. 30-minute buffers just so if you put somebody in by accident, no emails are going out, no tasks are queuing up. You have a little bit of time to take them out. So let's hit continue. And you should see this popping up. Now I'm going to have to do a condensed version of this. I'm going to remove a joke that I'm not even sure if it was working when I type my example here. But just for time, I just want to show everybody this is where you'd put your email. Now, oftentimes people are copying one over. I used to have a bunch of emails I had sent that I liked in a OneNote, or you're going to type one fresh. But this is that first email that's going to go out, either automatic or one that you're going to send after you personalize a little bit more. And you'll see at the bottom, there's all these buttons. But one of them looks like brackets. Somebody in chat the other day told me that they're called braces. And when you click that, there's all these weird codes. So scroll through that because you'll see that there are things you can use to have Apollo personalize an email for you that you're going to be using across multiple folks. So, hey, first name, I'll just do one real quick example. I love company. So that's obviously not a good sales email, so don't copy that. But you're going to put together your sales email. What do you want to say in that first email? You pop those codes in there. It looks a little bit, it's hard to judge when you got different codes in there. And it's not just about the lead. There's ones about the day, the time, happy Thursday, you can stuff like that, right? And on the right side, you'll see a preview window. That'll show you what your email would look like going out to a lead with dummy information. And this drop down here will let you choose recently saved leads to see what it would look like going to them. So if you're going to say, maybe you're trying to sell my brother who I got into sales, he's a PhD trying to solve cancer or something at Northwestern. Hey, Jeremy, I love Northwestern University, XOXO, James. So you'll be able to see what that email would look like going to one of your leads. So whatever you end up putting, this is the one step you're going to have to finish after this is done. There's just not enough time to account for people either writing a new email or copying one over. In either case, though, you're going to want to save it as a template. Again, the best of the best are setting up Apollo to be more of a sales engine, an asset, something that takes less and less time, but gets you more and more results. One of the ways you do that is when you click this box at the bottom that says Save as New Template. And apparently I don't know how to click right now. Okay, for some reason mine's not working. Is it working for, I've never had that happen. But normally when I click that, it lets me click it. There we go. Wonderful. I think it just had a little bit of a headache. Then you'll be able to give that email a name. And a great way to pop emails in here and start saving them is by telling yourself what that email is ideally for, because you're going to start using examples or stories or talking in a way that'll be good for certain personas or industries. And then you'll be able to use this button here that says Load Templates and have all these emails you've used either recently or long-term, first emails, second emails, general purpose emails, emails for when somebody complains about something, emails for when somebody says they want to buy. You'll see I've got a bunch of emails here for almost every possible scenario, and you can use those in sequences or replying to individuals in here. You could still edit them, right? Or even use them in your inbox if you use Gmail and you've got the Apollo Chrome extension. So I'm just going to pop in one real quick so we can move to the next step. Put the subject line in and hit save. So later on, when you come in to finish a step or move steps around, you'll notice there's 3 dots next to it. Just click on there and hit edit, and then you could pop in that email that you want to do. For the second step, even if you don't do cold calls, I'm going to give you something right now. For anybody who doesn't do cold calls, I'd recommend start dipping your toe in the water. I think it's a real, to me, it's a freebie right now. 80% of the people don't pick up. It's a great way to humanize yourself. I'm going to pop in this recent webinar I did. It was well researched. I get into the actual data, the science behind why it can be so impactful and different than cold emails. If you watch the first 10 minutes and aren't convinced, then sure, maybe don't do it, but I think you'll be convinced you should dip your toe in the water if you're not. One way you could use the phone call step here in Apollo, so hit that, let's click that in if you have it, is you can dummy proof it. I've been doing this 17 years. I still like to remove as much thinking as possible so I can be focused on what the person's saying. You'll notice in the note field on this step, you can use those variables again. So if you have a script for your voicemail or a script for the opening of the call, you can put it in here. When you hit, if you're on the pro or custom plan, you can dial right from inside Apollo. Right next to it is the script, and it's actually got all the details within the script of that person that you'd be using. So let's add that third step. I just want to make sure I get it in here before folks are taken off, because we promised this would be 45 minutes and we're at 49. A lot of questions, though, great questions. So this is one everybody can do, free to paid, as long as you add that email in the first step. We're going to do automatic email. And Maximilian was saying, can you show adding any of the LinkedIn steps works? We're going to do the automatic email, then I'll do a LinkedIn and just show folks how to save leads and move them to the sequence all at once. So it makes it easier to have multiple searches, multiple sequences when you don't need to go hunting through your saved leads. And if anybody's curious about that same question, I just finished recording a course on prospecting on LinkedIn, using LinkedIn and Apollo and the extension. That should be coming out June 11th on the Apollo Academy. And I'll cover that in depth. So let's add this one. You'll notice that it's always asking you when to start this step, how many days, minutes, hours after the last step. So if somebody replies to that first email, they're taken out of the sequence automatically. When you do the call, even if you're not dialing through Apollo, as long as you log it, connected or voicemail or whatever, any of the connected ones, it pulls it out of the sequence. So this is only going to go out on your behalf, in this case, 3 days after that phone call was made, as long as they're still in the sequence. There's been no sign of life. Now you'll notice that we're back at that edit template screen. And of course, since it's automatic, we've got to use those dynamic variables so it's not just a flyer, right? It's personalized to the person. But people are kind of tired, like most, I don't like using templated emails, even if it is personalized with those codes too much. I try to go to the top now. But there's an idea here that I learned last year from an Apollo Academy webinar before I worked here. And it's really simple. It's a great use of automatic. So at the top, you'll see a little box that says reply to previous thread. So click that. A lot of people miss it. One reason is it's small. It only shows up on when it's a later step in a sequence after you've already sent an email. And a lot of folks just don't follow up at all. But when you click that, you'll see in the preview window over here where I'm moving my mouse, whatever you sent in that first email will show up here. You're replying to it. And I've got this saved as a template. I'll show it to you. So this idea is at some point you reply to that first email with just a one-line reply. You want to get more eyeballs on that first one, because when people don't reply, that usually doesn't mean it's a no. It usually means they didn't see it. Even the people who did see it were curious, interested, wanted to talk to somebody else. They saw it while they're in the car. They're on a Zoom meeting. Their kid is crying. They're walking somewhere. So this is a good way to get in front of those folks who had some level of interest, as well as try to get more eyeballs on it that never saw it the first time. I also think it works for a third reason I'll mention in a second. But the idea here is reply to that first one. Hey, first name, quick yes or no is fine. Do you need help with? And then whatever that first email is about, sales. So this works wonderful. As long as you can get any meetings yourself, this will get you more without you having to do any work. One of the reasons I think it works so well is it lowers reactance. If you've ever been cornered by a bad salesperson, like most salespeople most people don't want to deal with salespeople. If you have a door-to-door salesperson walk up, you're walking through a store and somebody corners you, wants to know who does your electricity or cable. You ever feel your heart rate go up, where you get a little bit uncomfortable because you just want to figure out how to get out of it? That's what most people feel about any sales interaction. So when you make it easy to say no, it's casual, people are more likely to meet with you because they know it's going to be easy to get rid of you later if it's not for them. So I'm not a psychologist, but that's one of the reasons I think this works so well. I'm going to save that. I'm also going to pop in that webinar into the chat just because I thought it was excellent. And that's where I first learned about this. It's right, here we go. You'll be knowing how to do sequences. So I'm going to pop in this one for you. 5 best sales sequences. I didn't host this. This is before I worked here. Josh did. He's wonderful. He's my boss too. So last step, we're going to add a LinkedIn one. Somebody's just asking about that. So you'll see there's 4 LinkedIn tasks here. We're going to do send connection requests. That's the most used because a lot of folks are doing that already, though I think there's some subtle genius with a couple of those steps, like view profile and interact with content. I would normally have this earlier in the sequence, but this screen is going to be the same. How many days, minutes, hours after the last step. Over time, you'll prioritize things. So if you got a free 20 minutes, somebody doesn't show up to a meeting, you could say, Apollo, show me my highest priority task for the day. A note is if you want some context, if you have a lot of different personas or products you sell, that sort of thing. But when you hit continue, you could actually use all the features for your templated emails with your connection request message. You can use templates, you can use dynamic variables, whatever you want. I just recommend against pitching here. I also recommend against not having a message, and then when they accept having some long pitch message there, I have more success using it to improve the odds somebody reads an email or picks up a phone call. But if whatever works for you, you pop it right in there. You'll notice that on some of these steps, there's toggles. Those are on-off switches, so you can turn on or off different steps all along the way. And nothing will happen if you put context in here. You might be saying, I don't want to put anybody in here until all my steps are done. If you want to get folks in here and get it ready, nothing happens until you turn it on. There's a toggle switch up here. So real quick, just so I know some folks are going to be apt to take it off. I just want to make sure it's in the replay for everybody else. Let's finish this up and I'll answer a few more questions here. Let's go back to our saved search, pop over to Net New, even if you don't need to because you haven't saved anything yet, just out of habit. That's what you're going to do every day or every week. And again, I know I sound like a school teacher, but put something on the calendar. Hold yourself accountable to that. So let's grab some leads. You could always grab them in bulk if you want to do 25 a day, 25 a week, whatever works for you. Polar antonym of that is if you were just copying me because you don't even know who your ICP is, you just wanted to learn, maybe choose one. I don't want anybody upset they wasted credits. But instead of hitting save, whether it's 1 or 10 or 20, let's go over to sequence right here. So you'll notice, and this saves, it doesn't seem like it will, but it does when you have multiple searches and sequences, because when you're saving them all together, you've now got to find what leads go into what sequence. You're less likely to have multiple sequences specific to a buyer type or company type if you're not doing it this way. But you can save the lead and assign them to the sequence all at once, because this way it's going to tell you what sequence should it go to. You're just going to choose the one that's the same name as your search. If you want the mobile numbers, you can still grab it here. You just check this box. That's a different credit. and you hit save. That'll save the lead and assign it to the sequence. And it's not there permanently, right? If you have a week sequence, a 6-month sequence, once it's done, you can put them into another one. You can always take them out early and put them into a different one. And you don't need to worry about putting them into duplicate sequences. If you try to put somebody in a sequence that's already in one, it'll alert you. So we'll go back to our sequences. I'll turn mine on just so you can see where the tasks are. And then I'll tell you where you can get some free credits in the follow-up email as well. So when you go to your sequence, you'll see that whoever you saved and assigned to it's in pause. That's okay. Or if you do this later, you didn't do it now because it's not on. But when you get, let's say you update that first email, you add a couple more steps. When you turn it on, it'll queue up that first step for whoever's in your sequence. And you'll notice you can go see your tasks on the sequence right here. Most folks don't work from here because they're going to have multiple sequences. So you can always just go to the task screen right here. And this will show you all your to-dos, all your activities across all your sequences in one spot. And this is nice because at least for me, I get more done if I'm not context switching. So you can say, show me all the calls I need to make. And you can just bang through those across your sequences. And depending on which sequence it is, it might have different scripts and it'll show up right on screen exactly as you want it to. Your emails, your LinkedIn connections, all right here, you can bang through them nice and quick. That is, and I apologize being rushed a little bit at the end, a lot of questions today. I'm going to be getting some help on this with answering questions soon. So I feel bad about not answering all of them. I also feel bad about going long. But that's how the best of the best are setting up their Apollo to book the most meetings. They're setting up those sequences, aligning with their search, following up 4 or 5 times. Now, if you're selling candy bars, you don't want to follow up 4 or 5 times. If you got target accounts, you're never going to stop following up. So you just have to map out what works for you. But on average, we saw 4 or 5 follow-ups were the best in terms of meeting book rates. So one last thing, you're going to get an email with the replay. It'll be about a half hour after this ends. Even if you don't want to watch it, open it up because there'll be a few things, additional things in there. One of them is our resource kit. Me and the team put it together. It'll be additional stuff to help you as you're finishing this up and getting yourself ready. There'll be a link to a survey. You'd be doing me a favor if you click through that. It's only 2 questions, less than a minute. I'd appreciate it if you did it, especially if you thought I did a good job. But even if you didn't, hop in there, let us know what you think was missing, what you'd like to see here. And most importantly, let us know what other live trainings you'd like to see. As far as I can tell, nobody's doing something like this on a daily basis. I think now that we've seen the impact has been so substantial, there should be more of them, stuff that comes after this. So this goes to a Slack channel, my boss, their boss, and the CEOs now actively looking at, so it won't be ignored, and it'll go a long way as people are trying to figure out what else they'd like to develop for this. There will also be a link to Onboarding Hub. Click through there because there's an Onboarding Hub in Apollo where you can do tasks to learn how to use Apollo. You get free credits when you finish them. The 2 things we did today are tasks in there. So if you haven't been there before, you might have some free credits. So I hope everybody has a wonderful 2024. It's the best selling or financial year of your life. For the folks that are going, have a wonderful day, rest of your week. For everybody else, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes to answer some questions. Thank you. So let me get this off the screen because it looks so busy. So Bastian said, hey, and thanks for all the polite emojis. Is it possible to add personalized info about contact? Yes, so you can actually create, and I just heard this from somebody the other day. They actually created custom contact fields and then uploaded more data that wouldn't be in Apollo or any platform. So I'll get the link for that. Create custom contact fields. And this gentleman's idea was he went and found some site that had all these different companies' top selling products. They were the type of companies he sold. He ended up creating custom fields for those, uploading it all in. And then you can use any custom contact fields as variables in your personalized emails. So he was able to, and even automated things, be referencing their top selling products and that sort of thing. So here's create custom contact fields. I thought that was a really creative use of the idea. And mind you, you can have those be whatever you want. It doesn't need to be the examples I gave. Is there an integration with some AI video personalized tools? I don't think so. I know there's, actually there's Vidyard. I've not used it. Let me go back to templates and just show you. And you could always save templates from the emails screen right here. That's how I uploaded a whole bunch of old ones for different scenarios, even when I didn't need them yet. You go to templates, hit the blue button, new templates. You can pop it in here. You'll notice at the bottom, I haven't used Vidyard. I'm not really educated on it, but there is a Vidyard integration here. I tend to use LinkedIn for video messages after somebody accepts. I started testing sending a video message via cell to somebody's mobile. You think that might annoy folks, but I only sent them after there'd been some sort of reply, but no meeting booked, and it actually worked really well. I didn't have enough attempts to be statistically relevant, but in the first 10 I did, it seemed like people that weren't getting back to me got back to me, and I think it humanizes you and helps you out there. I also, one last idea is I started buying custom domains. I don't have any training on this, but if you buy a domain that would be recognizable to people in the company, like for Liberty Mutual, I looked up the name of that guy and that emu, and I think it was Doug and emu.com. And I just put that in an email in my LinkedIn connection request messages, assuming that they'd be curious and they'd recognize it. Nobody else would. And it worked. They did. And when they went to that, I had it forward to a unlisted video on YouTube, which was my video message. So again, not super complex, but for $11.99, it had a pretty sizable impact. Yeah, you can share the replay. And if you want them to come to one of these, here's that webinar, P. Curley. Here's the webinar list. So they could always come tomorrow or Friday, or next week. It looks like we're starting with the 2-a-days again. You did a perfect job, Roberta. So Mustafa, that'll be in the follow-up email. It'll say, I think, webinar replay or live training replay, but there'll be a link to a survey in there. And anybody who fills that out, thank you in advance. I appreciate it. I won't be able to get back to you after the fact, and it would look weird to my boss if I was, but I appreciate it. You rock, Jake. Well, a lot of polite messages here. Thank you. What is the sequence sender name? Is it going to show sent from Apollo? Angela, great question. That's actually something I think there should be at least a weekly live training on, setting stuff up when you first get in here, just the basics. Because one of those things that people seem to have problems with is when you go to settings, you go to manage mailboxes here. That's where you link your mailbox. So to Angela's question, I get this one a lot, where are the emails actually is Apollo sending them? And Apollo is more of like a filter or a manager on top of your actual inbox. Your emails are still coming from your inbox. It's just that, you know how you can have like the Outlook app on your phone, even if you have Gmail, and it looks like you're sending it from inside Microsoft Outlook's app, but it's still really coming from your Gmail. Same thing with Apollo. So when you link your mailbox, there's a big blue button here, link mailbox. If you already did it and you rush through it, you want to see those same settings. There's 3 dots next to the mailbox you have set up. Just hit check mailbox health. But this is the initial screens you see when you set it up. Your signature, your sending limits. Apollo helps you with email deliverability by basically modulating the pacing of the emails going out. I went through all the Google documentation for the email deliverability webinar I did, and Google had mentioned at least 3 times where the pace, like 100 emails going out in one day, will get into the inbox less than 100 emails going out over a couple days. So when you set up your mailbox, you're just saying how many emails per day are okay, how many per hour, minimum gap between emails. This is also where you set up your open and opt-out tracking, that sort of thing. So Angela, it'll show just coming to that person from your email address. And there's always a way to test that if you want to see what it looks like. When you go to your sequences, let's go to the one we just made. I'll go to the first step. Right at the top here where you save it, there's a button, send test email to me. You'll see exactly what it's going to look like for the people getting it in your own inbox, whatever one you log in with. That help, Angela? How will site visitor tracking work in Basic Plan? I don't have a great depth of knowledge on that yet, David. I've just started messing around with it. I'm meeting with, I think it's today, I'm meeting with that team, me and Janet, who works on the webinars with me, as we're prepping for that June 12th one. So I apologize, I can't answer that yet. I think they're launching it so that every plan can use it. My guess is there'll be some sort of limitations there or utility on the free plan, right? But it looks really great. And when you combine, on its own, it's really cool. You want to have something like that. When you combine it with all the other stuff you could do in Apollo, like plays, which allows to do if-then, your sequences, filtering people into specific sequences or tasks, I think it's going to be really powerful, especially with the ratios the way they are right now in outbound. I think it'll be nice to have something like that. How many emails can I send per day? Will the emails be coming from Outlook or Apollo? So they'll be coming from you. When you link your mailbox, it'll look just like it came from it. Like, for example, if you link your work email, it's Gmail. It'll look the same there, except you set up your signature of what you want Apollo to put in there. You could always do that send test email thing if you want to see. How many emails you could send a day will be, you have credits on how many leads you can save and get their email addresses. But how many emails you send will be based on what you put into the link mailbox setup. So you're going to say how many to send. We recommend, there's recommendations in there. To save time, I'll just say, look at that, okay? Any thoughts on warming up a new domain for outreach? We had a warm-up tool in here, and we took it out. I met with that team to ask why, and they said they wanted to get more clarity from Google. Google had said they're going to look at email warm-up potentially in a derogatory fashion. I think they wanted to retool it and also get some better clarity from Google on what that meant, because they were worried that potentially something built to help folks get into inbox could end up hurting them. I think they've gotten that clarity. I believe they're potentially testing on a new version of it that will, I think, so the only reason I'm saying this, and I probably shouldn't, but I sometimes have access to stuff early, and I saw that I've got warm-up status here. So Antonio, I only know that they're testing something right now because it showed up in mine, but my guess is I'll try to get some clarity on that. And I'll pop my LinkedIn in here if you want to. I popped in my email, I think, earlier, but LinkedIn's a good place if you want to follow up with me, or I try to post some of these things on there. There's my LinkedIn. Feel free to test out anything in Apollo, like I'm a lead as well. I gave a phone number in the cold call webinar I posted here. If you just want to have that first dial be really easy, sometimes you just break that seal, make that first dial, all the rest come along. Feel free to put me in as a lead for that first dial. Do we need to have a particular LinkedIn account type to use the sequence steps? Nope, you could have a free one. I'm currently on a free one just because I wanted to test that. I do think LinkedIn's worth paying for, but all those steps that are available in sequences work whether you're paid or free. How to avoid my emails being pushed in spams? Let me post something here just because we're way over and I have to run. But I cover all the stuff the engineers built into Apollo to help with email deliverability in this one. And I try to do it in a way that would be more for salespeople or business people as opposed to folks who enjoy getting into the technical depths of this. So I think this should help you on that. Violetta asks if we support GIF. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I actually don't put any images in my emails. I try to be information rich, but low on links and emails. I try to have none. I know that's not super scientific, but overall it seems to help me get in the inbox. Possible to auto add from save list to sequence? For instance, save list of 100 will add 50 to this. Yes, I believe so. I don't know about 50 a day, but I believe you can just auto add, because when David was saying he's got a bunch of leads saved to lists. I believe you can push to a sequence directly. Yeah, there's a button right here to add to sequence. I don't know about the pacing. There probably is a way of plays, but I've never done that. So I'd be sitting here just thinking to myself for the next half hour and probably end up thinking that's not possible, but I think there might be. After you link your mailbox, how can you increase your daily limit? So you can increase it more if you want to. We just recommend people start with 50, and once they see they're getting in. Now, when you go to the manage mailboxes and you start sending them, you'll see a deliverability score here. This is my test one, right? So I don't have an email score through here. Or I'm not supposed to. I actually sent some by accident, but not enough to get a score. This will show you green, yellow, red, and then you can click in there and see exactly why you have those scores and how to improve it. So if you're green, it says you can increase things, or their recommendation is don't increase unless you know you're already, if you're not getting the inbox, you don't want to send more. You want to fix some things. So I would check there, Angela. Can we upload a list of companies? Yep, I'll post that again. CSV. Import a CSV. Actually, let me, Rich. I posted it earlier. I'm going to, post a different version of this time just because of the way you phrase that question, but you could just pop up here and search for CSV companies or accounts. This one is enrich data in CRM. That'll basically bring Apollo data into your CRM, And then I'll also do the accounts. But save this knowledge base link if you don't have it. So here's the other version of it. If you don't have a CRM, upload list of accounts. I'm way over. I got to get going, but ping me on LinkedIn if there's something that you asked and I didn't get to it. I'll try to get back to you. It won't be instant, but I'll try to get back to you. And of course, you can come back to these other webinars. Today was a bigger group, but Fridays are usually less folks. So if there's something you really wanted to ask, pop in then too. But I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for being so kind. Happy selling. Nice to meet you all.